Another episode of The Big Hit. We're here. I'm your host, Chris Hayes, coming at you. We got NBA, NHL, and a special segment at the end. I'll get to that in a bit, but we'll start with the NBA with Darnell Turner, Izzy Muhammad, usual guys. Team LeBron beat Team Steph in the AllStar game. The new format worked out pretty well. AllStar Saturday night was questionable. Some people thought it was good, some people thought it was bad. We'll talk all about that stuff. The NHL with Jake Taylor and Elliott Hicks. The Flyers made a trade, so did the Boston Bruins, two contenders making moves. And then we'll talk about best team in the East, best team in the West, and your MVP at this point in the season. They'll give their takes on that. And then young Jake Taylor is going to have a 2-minute drill. We haven't done a 2-minute drill in a while, but Jake will be starting those, and it should be pretty good. So stay tuned for that too, a special treat at the end of the show. So keep watching. This is The Big Hit. Welcome back into The Big Hit, folks. I'm here with our usual NBA guys, Darnell Turner, Izzy Muhammad, talking about AllStar Weekend. It wrapped up this past weekend. We previewed it last week. We're going to review it this week, so to speak. So first off, Team LeBron, they beat Team Steph. It was a really good game. I never watched the AllStar game, but I watched it this year. I like the new format. Team LeBron pulled it out, came back and won the game, 148-145. Much more competitive AllStar game than usual. LeBron won MVP. That's his third All-Star game MVP. Got a near triple-double in the game. What grade would you give this All-Star game, Izzy?
I think it's honestly one of the best All-Star games I've seen in the last at least 10, maybe 15 years. When you look at the amount, okay, you know, there's still a lot of defense not being played. Like in the beginning of the game, it looked like maybe Team Curry was gonna, you know, just go out and just blow them out. But then, you know, Team LeBron came back, battled back, and they won the game. And I think that when you look at the contestants and just like, even on threes, okay, most of the time they're gonna come down and then they're just gonna shoot a three ball. But what you saw was people contesting. They wasn't allowing a lot of easy layups. It was a genuine competitive game, and it was fun. It was fun to watch because you had some of the best players in the league. You know, you had stars. It was basically balanced if you look at it. Even though that Team LeBron had a lot of guys that were replaced, it was still great competition. I think it was one of the best games I've seen in a while, honestly.
Well, since Izzy won't give you an actual grade, I'll actually answer your question and give you a grade. I'll give it an A+. I thought it was a terrific game from start to finish. You know, even though Team Curry had got out to, you know, a pretty big lead, you know, in All-Star games, you know, I never really expect those to last long, especially with all the three-point shooting and nobody's really playing defense. It's not
what they scored,
like
192 last year?
Yeah, close to 200.
Close to 200. That was just awful to watch. Anthony Davis had like 52 points, all dunks and layups. It was just easy for him. But last night's game, I saw a competitive edge to guys on both teams, and Bede and Russell, who've had a little, you know, rivalry during the regular season. In their two meetings, you know, he blocked his shot. You know, we don't see a lot of guys contesting layups and dunks in All-Star games. So, you know, that was fun to watch. He even got a block on Paul George towards the end of the game when both teams were really turned up the intensity. It was
crazy they took him out for that last possession.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. But, you know, that layup by LeBron, that game-winning layup probably doesn't happen if Embiid's in the game. But, you know, it was a terrific game overall. LeBron James had you know, the city of Los Angeles, you know, welcomed all those All-Stars to a, you know, terrific showing. And, you know, they gave the fans back in a terrific game. It was a real close game. I don't remember the last time we've had, you know, a game like this really come down to the last shot in the All-Star game. So that was really enjoyable to watch. You know, I was just watching this game at home, and I was just on the edge of my seat the entire game from the first quarter on. It was just so interesting. A lot of new guys in Embiid, first-time All-Star. You know, he really, you know, amongst the elite in the NBA, he really looked like one of the best players, you know, in the league. And, you know, going forward, he should be there pretty much every year. So I really like it. You know, Steph Curry and James Harden, the two guys that I thought would, you know, really help lead Team Curry to victory, didn't really have a good game for me. But it was.
Steph started with like 0 and 6 from 3. It was ridiculous.
Something like that. James Harden, you know, didn't play particularly well either for an All-Star game. Jimmy Butler walked 0 minutes. He just decided to sit out. A lot of great things, you know, a lot of great trash talk between the two. It was a really fun event. I give it an A+, and I'm looking forward to, you know, with the new draft and stuff, you know, more games like this.
thought it was very cool last possession too, and Steph was trying to get the three off, and LeBron and KD just played shutdown D. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
See that stuff in All-Star games.
Yeah, even to see guys that are on the same team go against each other in All-Star games. We've never seen that. You know, Curry and going up against Durant. Obviously, Klay Thompson and Draymond were on Team Curry, so it was real fun to see.
Absolutely. We talked about the new format. I think we all loved it. I think most fans loved it too. Safe to say it's probably here to stay. Did that help kind of bring back the fun and entertainment that fans wanted to see, not just the West blowing out the East like it usually does? Because we all know the West probably has superior talent. But do we like the new format?
Yeah, definitely. I'm thinking that they should definitely keep this format. Having two superstars, whether I think that next year they should have like creative names maybe. They'll probably do like some advertising thing, maybe like a Team Pepsi or Coke or something. But I think that it'd be fun if they had like creative names, you know, still have people, still have the same like superstars in the ring. But I think that whoever's picking the All-Star shouldn't be so biased. I think that they should be picking different guys. Like the fact that a few guys, you know, like Ben Simmons got snubbed like 4 times. A few of those guys should have been in. I think that they should genuinely evaluate the talent and put guys that should be in there no matter what year they are in. But the format definitely wins well. I love the format. The format is a great format, and I think that they'll keep it. Maybe they can improve on for future years, but it's good for now.
Yeah, I think it's terrific. I think it just brought a new breath of fresh air to All-Star Sunday night. And, you know, like you said, the West has been blowing out the East the last couple of years. So this was just something new and refreshing. And I think the fact that the players kind of heard, you know, all the fans and, you know, and the media talking about how uncompetitive the game has been, how it hasn't been fun to watch. So I think they've heard that and they recognize that, you know, fans want to see an entertaining game. They want to see, you know, not defense, but, you know, just a little bit of contesting the shots, you know, just not making it easy for opponents. We saw some great shots last night, and particularly they were more amazing just because someone put a hand up, you know, someone tried to contest the shot. So, you know, when you can do that, it makes it a lot more interesting to see these great players try to pull off great things. So, you know, one thing I like to see that Commissioner Adam Silver has already said that he wants to do next year is have the draft live on TV. I think that'll be something that would be really interesting and cool for them to do. I think it's something.
I don't know about that. I mean, it's just a draft for the All-Star game. When you look at it,
everyone wanted to know who got drafted where. So why not
make it a
televise
15-minute special? Or
I think it's something that could be interesting was if the teams practice on I think Friday afternoon or something like Saturday afternoon. Maybe have the draft center court right there, or have it on TV right before practice starts, and then find out your new team that day. I think that'd be real interesting to see.
I think it was Chris Webber on TNT was saying like the possibility of like, I'm not sure how feasible this would be, but like right before the game, just like draft players like it's typical like.
Yeah, the only reason I think that would be really interesting too. The only reason I don't know about that is because they usually do have the practices before, so I don't know if they just want to just switch the practices up or whatever. But I think that would be really interesting too.
What more could you possibly? I mean, it's just practicing. I feel like it would be possible for them to do it right before the game, just because it's an All-Star game. What do you?
I don't think it'll be a problem. But coaches in the All-Star game actually do go over. They have little sets and stuff they like to go over. So I don't know if that's going to impact them or not. Like you said, it's an All-Star game. You know, it's nothing serious, but you know, it's something that they actually do. So it'll be interesting to see. I actually like, you know, having the team put together before the game actually started, before the weekend came. You saw a lot of interviews, guys trash talking already. You know, Kevin Durant flexed that Steph Curry after a game and said Team LeBron. I thought that was really funny. So kind of like the banter between all the players leading up to the game is fun. But, you know, if they actually had the draft, you know, the weekend of, I think that would be real fun to see.
New format, definitely a success for Commissioner Adam Silver and the NBA. Let's talk about the stuff on Saturday night. But I think most people watch that, as including the game too. A lot of people watch the Saturday night stuff. Did you enjoy the skills competition, the three-point shootout, and the slam dunk contest? What was your favorite moment from that stuff on Saturday, Izzy?
I'm gonna get into the dunk contest in a minute. The skills competition. Joel Embiid was cheating and still lost, which is ridiculous. I don't understand him. But also, in the three-point contest was just flat out boring. So getting back to this dunk contest, though, which is really interesting. The dunk contest really wasn't that, like, it wasn't as flashy as the years past. But it was okay in the fact that the dunks were fine. Even though we seen the Vince Carter dunk again. I'm like, okay, we already saw it. We don't need to see that again. It's already been done. Do something different and creative. And there's also someone else that possibly could have won that should have won maybe, and Larry Nance. And a few other people believe in this as well. But as far as the celebrity judges, I didn't like that the fact that they had a few celebrity judges that, they're just celebrity judges. They didn't play basketball. They need to pass some guys that's in there actually, dunk a basketball, know what a good dunk is, because some of those dunks were getting 50s and they just weren't 50 caliber dunks. I liked a lot of the content. I just think that they should have had different people. Maybe more the props just wasn't working. A lot of them were missing dunks. There's a lot of problems with the dunk contest. The Saturday night kind of disappointed me a little bit. The game made up for it, but the Saturday night competition was pretty terrible.
I enjoyed Saturday. I thought it was pretty entertaining. It wasn't, this wasn't one of the greatest dunk contests I've ever seen. It definitely won't go down in history, but it was still pretty nice. I saw some dunks that I haven't seen before. The Larry Nance one where he threw it off the backboard, caught it, and then threw it off the backboard again. That was really creative. It brought back some creativity that we haven't seen, besides a couple of players. So, I definitely thought Larry Nance got a short end of the stick just because I thought his dunks were so creative and different. Donovan Mitchell, he has that bounce, and his athleticism is just off the charts. And I think he had a nice dunk contest showing, but most of his dunks, most fans would say that they've seen before, in some type of variation. But, nonetheless, he's a high flyer, and, being able to jump as high as he did, which was pretty interesting. And one thing about the Vince Carter dunk that, really made me appreciate the Vince Carter dunk more when Donovan Mitchell did is just how high Vince Carter jumped when he did his version of it. Vince Carter was a amazing athlete, and that would still go down as probably my favorite dunk contest of all time. But the three-point contest, the first round didn't really have much interest in it. A lot of guys, I don't think really gave it their full effort. They kind of went out there and just shot the ball, real cool, lackadaisical. And
Paul George made only 3-4 shots in it.
I don't even think he was the worst one. I think Kyle Lowry had 7. I think that was the lowest. Yeah, a lot. Probably the most single-digit scores in an All-Star three-point contest I've ever seen. But the championship round was pretty interesting between Klay Thompson and Devin Booker. They both had over 25. I think Klay had 25 or 26, and Devin Booker won with 28. They really heated up in the final round. I thought that was pretty interesting to see those two duel. I kind of see them as mirror images of each other. Devin Booker, I think the more creative scorer, they both can just get buckets and shoot the lights out, and he had a real nice showing in the three-point contest. And the skills challenge was probably the most entertaining one for me because I didn't really know who would come out victorious in that one. And, you had, like Izzy said, Embiid cheating, which was funny. Spencer Dinwiddie getting the win. I thought that was a real fun event. So I enjoyed Saturday.
Boo. I don't like it.
We have varying opinions on that one. Let's talk about...
Izzy doesn't like anything. He's like the Grinch. So you can't take anything he says serious. So we just have to move on.
Maybe he'll like us talking about the second half of the season, the NBA season. Who do we think has the most to prove of the playoffs coming up in a couple months? Which teams have to prove something as we head toward the home stretch here, Darnell?
I still think Cleveland has something to prove, even though they've played well those last couple of games before the All-Star break. I still think they want to come out and kind of prove what kind of team they can be. There's still a lot of chemistry issues that can be worked out. They've won a lot of their games, really easily, blowout wins. So I think seeing them in a close game and, kind of throwing out all the sets that the coach has for them, seeing how they react in different situations as a team, because once you get in the playoffs, you're going to have a lot of close games. There aren't going to be a lot of blowouts. So seeing how they react in that and how they come down in the last 2-minute offense and what they do with that, I think will be interesting to see. And they still kind of want to get up in the Eastern Conference. Toronto, I think, currently is the #1 seed. So I'm pretty sure they want to try to get home court advantage, even though it doesn't matter much to them because they have the greatest player on the planet on their team. But I still think LeBron James and his new cast want to come out and show what they can do.
Yeah, definitely this upcoming playoff run, I think I'm going to go with a few teams. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Cavaliers, like Darnell was saying. They still have a lot of issues to work out. They have a lot of chemistry issues. You don't know what this team is going to be in the future. And then you got a team like Boston, who you still got Kyrie, who has a lot to prove. A lot of people say that he can't win if he left. If he left LeBron, he wouldn't be able to win. And you see the strengths of this Boston team, one of the best defenses in the league. And they have Kyrie, who's been playing lights out this year. This team has a lot to prove if you think about it, because they have to. Well, it's more. I feel like it's more for a Kyrie thing, and everyone else on the team too, of course. But especially just this whole Kyrie and LeBron and the whole fiasco that led up to the trade of him. So when you look at that, I think that Boston has a lot to prove. They haven't really been making a lot of noise in past years, and this year they have a really good team. Also, I think Houston has a lot to prove. If Houston has all the keys. They have all the keys to success, honestly, and they, when you're going up against a team like the Warriors, they're a different type of team on paper, and when you play them. But I think that if the Rockets want to consider themselves contenders, then they have to really strap up and make sure that everyone's on the same level. They have to make sure that they can contain the firepower from the Warriors. But those are just some of the few teams I think have to prove themselves if they want to be considered great.
We got 2 more questions. We'll just do it kind of like rapid fire pretty quickly here. First one, about 2/3 of the way through the season, who is your league MVP right now?
Right now, I have to go with James Harden. I think he's just played terrific all season. The bearded one, I think it's about time that he gets one. He's been in the conversation the last few years, so I think he's been playing terrific. And obviously, things can change in a blimp in the NBA. LeBron James has still had a terrific season. You got 2 guys in Golden State who will always have MVP consideration. But I think James Harden this year has been terrific, and they're number 1 in the West right now. I can't combat that.
Yeah, I really was hoping you didn't say him so I could, but I'm still going to, just because I can't go against James Harden. Last year it was very controversial. I believe that Russell Westbrook should have won. We're fine. That's that year's done. Now this year, James Harden clearly is definitely trying to make sure that he wins. He's averaging 31 points, shooting like 45% from the field. If you look at this, I think that the Rockets and James Harden. I think James Harden is going to win this MVP strictly off the strength that he has a chip on his shoulder.
We got another question, but we're out of time, unfortunately. I'll have to save it for next week. We'll be right back on the Big Hit. We'll talk about NHL with Jake Taylor and Elliot Hicks, but this has been the NBA segment. Darnell Turner, Izzy Muhammad. Stick around for hockey talk here on the Big Hit. Welcome back into the Big Hit, folks. I'm here with our 2 regular hockey guys now, I guess, Elliot Hicks and Jake Taylor. Let's get right to the action, I guess. So we'll start with the Philadelphia Flyers. Every Philly team's kind of been on a roll recently, and that includes the Flyers. And they made a trade a couple days ago. They got the Red Wings player Peter Mrazek. Now with the Flyers in the thick of the playoff race in the Eastern Conference, is this a move they should have made? Do you like the move or not? Start with Jake.
Yeah, it's actually a very smart move, especially because Brian Elliott got injured, and I think Peter Mrazek's a solid goalie, definitely a good backup goalie if they want to start Brian Elliott down the road in the playoffs, assuming they do make the playoffs. But I really do think this is a pretty smart move by the Flyers, which is weird because that doesn't usually happen too often. So I really I like it though, because if you see in NHL the playoffs, you need a good goalie. That's the key to success. Last year the Penguins needed 2. The year before they needed 2 as well. Fleury and Matt Murray and Jeff Zatkoff at one point there. One plays for the Rangers, but like Jonathan Quick comes in, is amazing. Like goalies steal the show, and I definitely think if Brian Elliott is a little shaky, it really gives your team confidence that you can put in Peter Mrazek and have him close the door on opposing teams as well, especially when the defense for the Flyers isn't too strong. But I love to have 2 solid goalies. It's just great for the NHL, really, teams.
Yeah, I've always thought that Mrazek was a pretty good goalie over there in Detroit. And, of course, the Red Wings, they're in the midst of a pretty deep rebuild. They're going to need to sell off some guys, and a trade like Mrazek, I was never really too sure why they never bought into him. They kept a guy like Jimmy Howard over him in net. But, yeah, like you were saying, good goaltending is everything basically all the time in hockey, and especially in the playoffs. I feel like Mrazek is not ideal, but you really can't get a great goalie in the trade market at the trade deadline. So for Philadelphia, this was a pretty smart move, and I feel like it'll really help them in the push to the playoffs, and if they can make it there, to help them try to win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I agree.
Another move involved the Boston Bruins. They acquired Nick Holden from the New York Rangers, who look like they're going to be selling. They got a 2018 third-round pick, the Rangers did in return, and minor league defenseman Rob O'Gara. What are your thoughts on this trade? Who won the trade, and will Holden be good in Boston?
I think Boston won the trade naturally. I really think they're trying to make that push. Although Holden isn't an exceptional player, I really do think you need those small role players to really win the Stanley Cup. And if Boston's buying in, which a third-round pick in a minor league player isn't risk giving that too much away for anything. However, I really do like the move, especially adding some depth to the defensive position. And over there in Boston, Tuukka Rask playing outstanding. If they can just keep that offense just rolling, I really think Boston has a good chance to maybe upset some teams in the Atlantic like Toronto or Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think this is a really good move for Boston as well. You know, for them to, of course, they've had a really good year after missing the playoffs last year. And like you said, role players really do the trick. And I think this is a good trade for both teams. You know, New York, they even issued a memo to their fans that said, hey, we're going to be trading some guys the next couple weeks. We're out of it. So this is the start of their rebuild that I'm sure will continue to form a little bit. You know, didn't get great assets, but you know anything really helps. You never know if this defenseman or whoever they pick with the third-round pick will end up good. But yeah, this trade works for both teams. The Rangers get some assets, and Boston gets a guy who can help them in the playoffs.
The deadline is still a few days away, guys, and obviously there will be for sure many more trades to be made between the contenders. What are some rumors you're hearing? Who do you think might be on the move? And which teams are looking to get better?
No, it's really hard to speculate on some rumors there because it can change in a moment's notice. But some players that I really think are interesting in the trade talk are definitely like Evander Kane, Derek Brassard. Derek Brassard being, I think, maybe could be the best steal because I think he might like a sleeper trade. He's obviously a great player and he's shown that. But I really think he can do some wonders on a team in the playoffs. He's clutch. We know that. We've seen him in years past. And I really like Derek Brassard. Whatever team he goes to, I really think the team that picks him up won't have to give much away to Ottawa because they're also want to go to J.G. Pajot. So they got some room to work with. So I really think you won't have to give up too much for Brassard, but you get a lot in return.
Yeah, there are a lot of teams that could be in rebuild stages. Ottawa, of course, with the downfall after last year's Eastern Conference final run. And again, the New York Rangers, as we just talked about, and the Detroit Red Wings, teams they've already made moves. And that's just how it is in any deadline, you know. All these teams that are on the fringe of contending are contending. You know, you never know which guys a team like Pittsburgh could bring. Maybe Matt Cullen has been a popular name in terms of coming back to Pittsburgh. And, you know, a lot of things can happen at any trade deadline, and I think this one will be really interesting in the NHL.
We're going to do a little bit of rapid fire questions now. I got 3 questions, kind of predictions, stuff like that. So far, we still got a little bit of the season left, but Ellie, I'll start with you. Who is the best team in the Eastern Conference right now and why?
I mean, as a Penguins fan, it's pretty tempting to try to go and pick the Penguins, but I think Tampa Bay Lightning are still the best team. They've been on fire all season, playing really consistently. I think they got to be the best team in the East as of right now.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Elliot. I think that although the Penguins may be second, honestly, because they have that experience. However, like the depth, the role players, Penguins have more role players. Like Brian Russ can score when he wants to, and like the Connor Sherrys and people like that. But I really think Tampa Bay just has the talent in those positions. They're not necessarily there to fill the role. They're not grinders. They're just pure talented players. Like Braden Point is a great example of that. I really think the whole team's clicking on all cylinders. You keep Stamkos healthy, that team's going to be dangerous.
All right, same question with the Western Conference. Best team in the West, and tell me why.
I got to go with Vegas. You know, I've been high on the Vegas Golden Knights ever since day one, and they've just continued to defy the odds. You know, Marc-Andre Fleury is still playing well for him, even though he missed a lot of time with injury. And even though it is a team that may be a lot of role players and maybe they're nowhere near this good this time next year, they're hot now, and I think that they can surprise a lot of people in the postseason.
I think that the Nashville Predators are the best team in the Western Conference. I really think being that last seed last year in the playoffs and getting all the way to Game 6 in the Stanley Cup Final really made them hungrier this season coming along. They bringing back almost every single player, if not obviously more players. They're bringing in some trades. I heard the captain, it's slipping my mind right now.
Mike Fisher?
Mike Fisher.
Yeah, he came back,
he came back. Yeah, he retired in the offseason, came back to play for Nashville. Because I think he really thinks they're going to win the Stanley Cup. Pecorine, obviously a great goaltender, unless he's playing Pittsburgh, as we've seen. He's honestly beat him twice ever. And I really like Nashville over there. The defense is outstanding, especially the scoring on that defense. Not only can PK Subban, but pretty much Roman Josi, the whole defensive core can really just get the job done, both defensively and offensively. And that's scary for some teams. It's really hard to defend.
So we both got Tampa in the East, and then you got Vegas and Nashville. Is the NHL MVP so far on one of these teams? A guy like maybe Nikita Kucherov? Is he your MVP at this point in the season, or is it somebody else?
Yeah, I think you took the words right out of my mouth, Chris. I think it's got to be Kucherov. You know, again, I say this every time his name is brought up. Jake Taylor had it. He called it at the beginning of the year. Nikita Kucherov is a dark horse MVP candidate, and he's been basically the star of this Tampa Bay Lightning team that has got to be the favorite for the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, part of me just wants to say Kucherov because I said it earlier, and he is leading the league in points. However, the most valuable player, I think the person who's most valuable to their team success is Johnny Gaudreau for the Calgary Flames. Calgary Flames are really tearing it up right now. They're in playoff contention. They're probably going to make the playoffs again. They made it last year, but they could make a deep run this year, I think. And Johnny Gaudreau was so huge to that team success. He's scoring the majority of the team's points every time he's out there. He's on offense. I really think he is the most valuable player to his team.
Hot take, Jake. Back at it, folks. That's Jake Taylor, Elliot Hicks. We'll be right back here on the Big Hit. Stay tuned.
Woo, woo, woo. What it do, what it does, what it did. It's Hot Take Jake Taylor here for a Big Hit 2-minute drill. So sit down, shut up, and drink a beer. We're coming off the NBA State Farm AllStar Weekend, so you know what that means. I'm going to have to recap it because I know none of you watched it. The weekend began with the All-Star Skills Competition, which includes the Skills Challenge, the three-point contest, and the dunk contest. Overall, the entire night was awkward, mainly because announcer Reggie Miller sounded half in the bag, and the jabroni doing on-court interviews was so bad I would have rather watched a Pirates game. And the first event was the Taco Bell Skills Challenge, which was very weird because it seemed to acquire absolutely no skill. It should really be named Who the Hell Was This Guy, being that Spencer Dinwiddie won. Moving on to the JBL three-point contest was like moving into Stevie Wonder's backyard basketball court. The only difference is that Stevie would have made more shots. It was just a battle between Devin Booker and Klay Thompson, which Klay probably took a pay raise to let Booker win. The most anticipated event of the night was the Verizon Slam Dunk Contest, which was almost as big as a letdown than what Capitals fans experience every May. There were more misses in that contest than there was years before the Philadelphia won a Super Bowl. 57. The best dunk of the night was Dennis Smith Jr. However, the winner was rookie Donovan Mitchell, which you know is just bad when a Utah Jazz player wins something. As for the game, who cares? That's a wrap for this 2-minute drill. Until next time, America, from director Darnell Turner, producers Jared Brown and Izzy Muhammad, this has been the Big Hit.